I mean, I feel like it picks up here because there's a lot of reuse.
During that second half of the game.
Yeah, so there's a document you can find here when the person's in, like, the workers' quarters. And guess what? Alfred comes here and makes the workers feel horrible all the time, too.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he does.
Yeah, and there's also talk about them hearing the cries of some creature that the workers call Nosferatu.
Because they are not creative.
No, not at all.
And then you can get attacked by zombies here, and it's like, whoa, zombies! But, I mean, you just blew up a tyrant.
There are so many whoa zombies moments in this game. Like, after the first one, you shouldn't have any more of those in a Resident Evil game.
So you go downstairs, and then you encounter an enemy which has a bit of an introduction. You see a bunch of bodies stuck to walls with eggs on them. And they're giant moths. These things suck.
This is the first of several enemy types from the rest of this point onward that can poison you. There is a lot of poison in Code Veronica.
It sure is. I mean, in this hall, they sort of let you off easy because there's an infinite blue herb which cures poison. Like in a planter, you can't take it, but you can use it on the spot as much as you want.
And you are going to use it a lot.
Here's the other problem, though. The mods in this hallway infinitely respawn. You can never permanently kill the mods in this hallway.
Oh yeah, that's why you're going to use it a lot. Just this hallway, really.
You can get to a save room. You hear a banging sound. There's a locker with something banging against it. Also, the camera cuts to, like, behind Claire's shoulder. Weirdly reminiscent of Resident Evil 4, I think, for most people if they see it. And then just a rat busts out. And this rat is actually surprisingly important.
Oh yeah, we'll get to it.
There's a button in the back of the locker, though, but you can't push it because the power is off in the base.
Just know that this rat this is actually not the first time you've seen him in this game. Far from it.
It's kind of the Forrest Gump of Code Veronica, actually.
He shows up all throughout it for no reason.
That sets up your goal. You need to turn the power back on. Base appears to be focused around a big shipping facility. So there's a cargo belt. There's side rooms for a BOW experimentation room, weapon room, where you can get an AK-47 just sitting in one of the lockers in the back.
Which is a surprisingly terrible weapon.
I mean, I guess it would be better than an unupgraded handgun, but you probably have the upgrade. There's also the side room with the BOWs, short for bioorganic weapon. It's for all the zombies and monsters. There's giant spiders in here. Giant spiders are in every Resident Evil game, and all the ones released up to the point of Code Veronica, they never introduced them in a cutscene. They're just like, whatever, giant spiders.
They just are there.
So, there's spiders in here. They can spit acid at you, and they can grab you up close and chew into your body, which might poison you. There's a gas mask in here, which you also can't get because there's no gas leak or anything. So this sets up another side goal. You just have to go into a generator room and flip some switches. There's some dogs in the generator room, too, which I don't know how they're surviving in a non-temperature controlled Antarctic base.
Well, they're not. They're dead. It's the fucking Resident Evil game.
And the thing about the spiders in Code Veronica is, I don't think they're like the furry ones from the first games. Aren't they like more slender?
More like a weird light-colored Black Widow kind of situation.
Yeah, I don't know my spiders very well, but they appear to be a mishmash of a bunch of hairless spiders anyhow.
Yeah, just spooky
They're
spiders.
just spooky spiders.
In the armory, there's a locker with a detonator next to it, and you can place the detonator. If you still have the lighter, you can set this off. Otherwise, you have to wait until way later to do it. But all that's in the locker are a few sets of handgun bullets. Really kind of ridiculous if you do it with the second character. Also, there's like a cutscene for it where your character waits around the corner.
They wait around the corner behind a rack of missiles, which is the worst place you could possibly stand. It's amazing.
Yep. So you turn the power back on. Once you do that, you can move some of the stuff on the conveyor belt. There's a special camera shot of the conveyor belt that shows a crate destined for the weapons room with a magnum on top. But once you get the conveyor belt moving, if you go back in the weapons room, the conveyor is broken, so it knocks over a bunch of stuff and blows some stuff up, so there's a fire between you and the magnum, so you can't get it. It also delivers a crate into the BOW room, which unleashes some gas, which opens up the gas mask, and I think it kills the spiders if you haven't killed them yet.
Yeah, I think it does.
Also, when you turn the power back on, the soundtrack also turns back on. You push the button that's in the locker, and that's when it's revealed to you that Nosferatu is in fact real. And he lets out a cry, and it's got some super cheesy reveal music. But you need to go in there to get a key. So if you use the key to get into a room with going to move a digging machine. So Steve comes in and says, like, oh, there's a base not too far from here. I think if we can just get out of here and drive for long enough, we can get to it.
We need to get to the Australian base.
Yep. But as Steve is moving the digging machine, he's overcome by the desire to stare at Claire's ass.
Yep. And Claire does not notice.
Nope.
Until Steve does something not intelligent. He just fucking slams the thing into a poison gas valve.
So then you have to run out, and you can only go back in the room if you have the gas mask. It's an upper section of a room below that you also need the gas mask to go into. There's a valve you need to shut that will turn off the flow of the gas. Also, Steve he says he feels really bad and it's all my fault, and Claire's like, no, it's not your fault. We'll get out of here together. And she smiles at him because she doesn't know that he was thirsty as fuck.
She just thinks that it was operator error, he didn't know what he was doing, and just incompetence kind of.
Yeah.
But no, it's that he's a fuck up and was distracted by being a perv.
Then, again, you have to do all this because you, split up. I have no idea what Steve is ever doing when you split up.
Yeah, I assume he just sits.
He just kind of goes and does nothing.
I assume actually he's doing rituals to generate more bullets for his guns since he's constantly running out.
I need all these bullets so I can do nothing.
If you get the valve handle and you have the mask, you can shut off the gas. And then we're safe now. And who comes in but Alfred? And is ready to shoot Claire, when all of a sudden Steve busts in and actually is sort of cool and doesn't ruin it.
It's the only time in the game where he does something cool and then doesn't say something really crappy to, make you hate him. He just kind of, does this weird action slide and shoots him a lot.
I mean, you don't really like Alfred either, so, it evens out. Yeah, Alfred gets shot a lot, falls over a railing, steps backwards onto, a piece of ice, and then the ice gives way and he falls into a pit.
Yet this, as we will learn in just a few minutes, does not kill him.
No. Somehow, this Wile E. Coyote shit doesn't kill him.
The getting shot is what eventually kills him. But he does not die for a considerably long time.
The camera will focus on Alfred's sniper rifle he dropped.
It's your not-so-subtle hint that you should go pick that up.
Though, this is also your chance to put away any items you're carrying. And I would recommend putting away all your guns, which doesn't make much sense because you're thinking, I haven't fought a boss in a while.
I have a lot of trouble, personally, on the normal difficulty finishing off the next boss with only the sniper rifle. So bring a gun. Bring, that shitty AK with you.
Yeah,
as
you
well.
bring the AK with you.
Because you're not going to want it later.
Bring the AK with you. If you haven't upgraded the handgun, then I guess bring it along.
Bring, healing items, too. But, not too many.
As soon as you take the sniper rifle, Steve, who doesn't realize he's in a video game, is like, what are you doing? Hurry up, let's go. And you automatically run to the digging machine. And there's a cutscene where Steve busts through that wall, and it floods the base with water, which is only important in the context of the fact that you'll come back here later.
It is only important in the context that it will severely annoy and inconvenience Chris Redfield.
Yeah, you bust through the wall. Automatically, they go up to the roof to get to the other side of the building they're on where the well, he calls them a snowmobile. It's not a snowmobile. It's a truck.
It's not a snowmobile.
It's a snow truck.
Yeah, technically it's a mobile, so it's a snowmobile.
But as you try to get to the other side, there's a cutscene where it shows Nosferatu in his basement dungeon, breaking out of all his restraints. Also, there's an axe that was restraining him, which goes flying off to the side.
An entirely pointless, medieval Ren Fair
fucking
axe.
Astaroth pinned him down.
That Astaroth would use in a Soul Calibur game.
Yeah, so he comes out the other side, and is coming up the stairs. He sprouts giant tentacles and knocks Steve off the roof. But don't celebrate, Steve's just hanging on by a thread. Well, by a ledge, but he's barely hanging on, not dead. He tells Claire to leave, and Claire won't, so you have to fight Nosferatu. This boss is kind of annoying.
It is annoying for 3 reasons. The first of which is the game does not really explain how scopes work in this game. The second is that the draw distance on the Dreamcast and later PS2 is fucking terrible.
Oh god, is it? It's fucking atrocious.
I think it's actually worse in Code Veronica X, because I've had a much easier time with this boss fight on the Dreamcast version.
I think it is a little worse, yeah.
Maybe it's just intentionally done that way because they thought it was too easy or something, because this, I found it a lot more difficult.
The third reason he is awful is that his attacks have a chance of poisoning you. Yep. And this is a throwback to Resident Evil 1. Remember Yawn, the giant snake that poisons you with a toxin that cannot be cured by blue herbs and can only be cured by antivenom?
Yeah, oh, fuck, yeah.
Nosferatu can also do that. So that means if you get poisoned in this fight, you will be poisoned until you can get rid of it in the very specific way that gets rid of it.
Yeah, which you can't do during the boss fight.
You're just kind of screwed if you get poisoned.
If you get poisoned during this boss fight, then hurry it up. So what Nosferatu does is swings his giant tentacle arm things, which spray poison everywhere. You can see the direction of the wind by the way the snow is blowing.
And isn't there also a flag in the area that you can look at?
Yeah, so you want to avoid being downwind of his attacks, because they can still hit you. And what you want to try to do, you could just normally shoot this guy like a regular boss if you want. But if you have the sniper rifle, his heart is exposed. But you somehow can't hit it with other guns, right in his center of mass. But you can aim at his heart and shoot it, and it will do extra damage. He'll actually have a stun animation. If you finish him off with the sniper rifle, there'll be a cutscene where Claire says, "Now I got you," and then blows his heart up with the sniper rifle. I thought this was the coolest shit ever when I was younger.
I have never gotten that cutscene because it is hard to shoot him at all because of the poor control.
Guess what? There's actually another special cutscene. If you strike him with the knife when he reels back to do his close range attack, that's the other risk of the boss fight, is he can knock you off the roof. But if you hit him at a specific point, it'll do the same stun animation as if you hit him in the heart with a sniper rifle. If you finish him off with the knife, there's a cutscene of Claire stabbing him in the heart, which also makes his heart explode.
I have definitely not seen that one either, because I usually just shoot him to death with the machine gun.
I do remember the knife one, but I don't remember the sniper one.
You kill Nosferatu and then pull Steve up, and then you get into the snowmobile. And Steve gets to drive again. I don't know why Claire doesn't get to drive anything. She's the one that has a background in riding a motorcycle and shit.
Well, yeah, but that's a different class of license. You need different certification to drive heavy machinery. She doesn't have that. She just has motorcycle license.
Gotta abide the law in Antarctica.
Well, they drive off to head for the base, and then you see Alfred, who's hobbling against the wall.
Not dead yet.
Yeah, he opens up a room, and in it, a capsule opens up, and out walks Alexia. Alfred is glad she's awake, and then he dies.
Yep.
Also, just to make it creepier, Alexia is butt naked.
Yep.
Shot in a way that you don't see anything. Still, a little weird.
Also, it's worth pointing out, Nosferatu is their mutated father, Alexander Ashford.
Yes, Alexander was considered a failure in the Ashford family, who spoiled all the good fortunes of them having any hope of getting recognition through Umbrella, so Alexia injected him with the experimental T. Veronica virus they're working on, and it ran rampant and transformed his body, which is why they locked him up in a dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
So why Alexia is in cold sleep is she realized the virus takes effect too quickly in a regular human body. The temperature is too high. So, she injected herself with T. Veronica and went into cold sleep so the virus would act slowly. And she shows off her powers by summoning giant tentacles that,
erupt from the ice and fuck up the snowmobile. Hopefully injuring Claire and killing Steve, but we don't know until later. Because we need to start the second half of the game, which I like to call Chris Redfield's completely clueless rescue where he fights his old boss. Because Chris has none of the context that Claire has gotten.
Yep.
For the entire rest of the game, which makes certain scenes pretty funny if you think about it.
Yeah, and if you play Code Veronica X, then even knowledge of what Wesker's up to isn't exclusive to Chris. Then, at least in the Dreamcast version, that is the case.
All Chris knows is that this is an Umbrella facility and his sister is there.
Yeah, that's all he's got.
Chris arrives at Rockport Island and immediately meets Rodrigo, who is severely wounded because he was on an island that exploded completely.
And he got shot earlier, still.
And he has a quick talk with Chris and says, like, he's familiar with Claire. Says, oh, she probably escaped this island, everyone did. There's nothing left, you should just get out of here. And then, the gulp worm appears out of the ground and eats Rodrigo.
Yeah. Rodrigo, man, gets the fucking rawest deal.
Except for the part where he works for Umbrella, he's not exactly a bad guy.
And then he gets punked out by, one of the, stupidest looking enemies.
Yeah, Carlos worked for Umbrella, technically, and he didn't have anything bad happen to him ever, except for that his teammates got killed by his jerk boss.
Again, but he was a good guy who just, wasn't informed of what Umbrella was really doing. But it worked out okay for him. Rodrigo is the low-wage, non-mercenary glamour version as a prison guard on a backwater island. Anyways, so you can finally have a boss fight with Goggalor. You can also try to leave. There's an elevator on the other side of the boss arena, but you have to wait for it to arrive. So you have to hold out. But you have access to the item box. So, if you had any good guns left over from Claire, you can take them immediately.
Yep.
Also, there's a weird ceremonial thing that says if you offer me a flame, I will grant you power or something like that, and it's great with some machine guns behind it.
Mm-hmm.
But where are you gonna get a lighter? Well, in either case, if you go Gulpworm, it'll spit Rodrigo out. If you did it quickly enough, he'll still be alive, burning from stomach acid.
And rapidly dying.
Yep.
But not dead yet.
He'll hand you the lighter and say he can join his family again. And then he dies. Because also his entire family is dead, because his life isn't enough of a tragedy.
But yes, again, in the first step in the adventure of Chris, who has no fucking idea what's going on, he gets handed his own lighter back by a dead guy.
So you can use the lighter to get the submachine guns. I don't think you really use it for anything else ever again. This is the reward.
Yeah, really, not much.
Oh, and if you want to use the detonator in the Antarctic base.
The detonator as well, yeah.
So this is the only real use you'll get out of it.
What, you saying you don't want 60 handgun bullets in the last quarter of the game?
Yeah.
Where you have all of the other guns with a shitload of ammo for them?
Chris's thing, it's a whole lot of puzzle solving. The base has blown up, and so a lot of rooms are obviously pretty rearranged.
It is the least impressive self-destruct in any Resident Evil game. This base is mostly intact.
Yeah.
Mostly just unharmed. Occasional things are on fire and some walls are gone. It's mostly just still standing. Compare this to Resident Evil 1, where the mansion fucking nukes, to Resident Evil 2, where a giant train explodes, Resident Evil 3 where a city is nuked, and Resident Evil 4 where a fucking island explodes.
Things blow the fuck up in these games, and this is just like a firework.
And I mean, Rodrigo was fine. Did he even, I guess he knew that the self-destruct wasn't that impressive, which is why he didn't try to leave outside of being wounded. It's I'll be fine.
Yeah, my guess is Alfred was I'm gonna get a self-destruct sequence, it's gonna be really cool. But he didn't have a lot of money, so he's just fuck it.
Or he executed the workers before it was actually finished.
Fuck it, I'll just buy some fireworks.
It's all about the grand spectacle.
Actually, also, the underwater airport is untouched.
Exactly. There are whole parts of this island base that aren't damaged at all.
Happy 4th of July.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of sort of puzzle-solving work. Yeah, there's a lever in the basement with the shotgun on it. When you take the shotgun off, it raises the staircase next to it, so you can't quite take it out of there. Well, actually, you very easily can, because there's a shortcut back to the save room, but you need the stairs.
It is a minor inconvenience at best.
Which is also strange, because if you played other Resident Evil games, the shotgun becomes a mainstay. It's really important. this shotgun kinda sucks.
It's still decent for dispatching the enemies that the shotgun's been traditionally good against. It's still good against hunters, and it will still one-hit kill zombies.
Yeah, if you aim at their heads. But it just doesn't do a lot of damage. Like, compared to, like,
Exactly.
the super shotgun in Resident Evil 2, which ripped zombies in half.
Also, they toned down the gore in this game, at least in some versions of it, I think.
I don't know if there's any version where a zombie's head actually gets blown off of its body.
Yeah, it still has the gore, like, flying everywhere, like when you shoot a zombie's head off in the older games, but their head is still intact.
You'll probably want the shotgun, because there's a cutscene of someone watching you on the monitors. And I guess since we already discussed this cutscene thanks to Code Veronica X, this is, in the Dreamcast version, the first time you would see Wesker. You don't see his face, but I mean, it's so obviously him.
If you have played Resident Evil 1, you'll be like, oh, it's Wesker.
We had it, my brother and I. Because his face is also on the title screen.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, it is.
He has these little camera robot drone things that he sends out, and then he unleashes the hunters onto the island.
So yes, the hunters are there because Wesker's a dick.
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
It's a pretty solid reason.
Yeah, his team brought them. Also, I guess Wesker never left the island, so he's been here the whole time after attacking it too, after the self-destruct sequence.
Yeah. There is a thing that we glossed over in the first cutscene with Alfred. Also, Rodrigo mentions it in the very first cutscene in the game, which is that the island has been attacked. The island has been invaded by something, and that's caused the zombies to show up. That something we learn right now is Wesker.
Yeah.
Wesker has just straight up assaulted the island with the T-Virus and hunters.
Well, the T-Virus was on the base. It was unleashed.
Well, he caused it to escape.
Yeah, there's actually a sterile room in the basement where it seems like that's the location it leaked from. The first place you get attacked by the hunters, which makes it seem like they're specifically protecting this, is there's a door in Claire's section that's missing a doorknob, so you can't open it. But if you get there in Chris's section, if you examine it, doorknob is written with capital D and capital K, so you know it's an item now. And that's what triggers the hunters to attack you, is they're protecting this valuable doorknob.
It's wonderful.
So the robot appears and scans Chris and sets off an alert. And then you get the cutscene from first person of something jumping through the facility, which is also done in game, which is probably the biggest show of the camera.
Yeah, it's recreating a thing that had been a pre-rendered cutscene in Resident Evil 1.
Yeah, and then it jumps down into where Chris is, and it's a hunter. They're back from Resident Evil 1. They're lizard things that run on two legs at high speeds and jump and slash at you.
If you are a little bit injured, they have access to a high damage attack that will probably kill you in one hit.
Yeah, in older games it shows them as jumping across the room and decapitating you, but in this case it just seems to hurt a lot and kill you. You want to use the shotgun or the submachine gun.
Yeah, even though the shotgun does not as much damage as it used to, it still does the thing that it always did on hunters, which is knock them the fuck over. Which is very useful.
Also, actually, if you have acid rounds for the grenade launcher, that's their weakness.
But other things like bosses are also weak to that.
If you have leftovers, though, I know Chris will get better weapons for his bosses. The ones he even has to fight in the first place, which we're going to get to in a second.
There are at least two that I can think of that he does not have to fight at all. The first of which is coming soon.
Yeah. There's a puzzle you have to solve where you need to set the temperature of a chemical, which, like, in-game, it's rendered differently from all the other chemicals in the cabinet. Like, it's really frustrating to be like, oh, these chemicals all look the same to me, except the bright green one in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
It's also weird that they did this, because that's one advantage of having all the environments be polygonal in this game, is that interactive objects don't have to look different from the background objects. But they still did that with this one.
Yeah, well, it's to distinguish items looking different from things that aren't collectible.
Oh, yeah, but for this puzzle, it's all stuff stored in a cabinet. Like, they could have just had it look different when you made it look different, which is the point. You need to set the temperature to the date of the facility's founding, which is in a different room.
This actually stumped me. I've played this game a few times, but it stumped me in my last playthrough because I forgot that it is not in a file. It is actually just in the world in a thing that you can examine. I straight up couldn't find it for like half an hour. Yeah, this is the first of 2 places that stumped me. We will get to the other thing later, and I will have words about it.
So, you solve this puzzle, you get this chemical, which is needed to dissolve the portion of the blue emblem you used earlier to get just the axe part, which in the cutscene where Alfred goes into his Harrier hangar, he used a little golden axe key. So that's what you're trying to get as Chris. Which is weird because Chris wouldn't really know that, but whatever. He sees the door with the axe imprint.
He's been in a Resident Evil game. He knows that he needs to melt things to make items. He's like, this is a fucking Umbrella facility. I need to combine garbage with other garbage to get the piece of garbage that I need.
You get the chemical, and that's when it introduces a variety of hunters. It's a sweeper.
It's a big, shitty purple hunter that can poison you.
Yeah, if you were having a tough time with the hunters with their rapid close-range attacks, now you can have a tough time with their rapid close-range attacks and the poison you have to deal with after you kill them. There's a blue herb in this room, I think, specifically for that reason.
There's 11 types of hunters.
They are the biggest success Umbrella's had with bioweapons. I don't know why they just stopped after they made hunters and said, let's sell these. These work.
Well, because of Resident Evil 5's backstory, where it's like Spencer wants to change everything in the world so that he could be God.
Yeah.
But that's another game.
Yep.
With a very different Chris. Yeah, you hopefully survive this encounter. You can enter the room where Alfred tried to shoot you with his sniper rifle poorly, because you used a blue emblem there, but it falls into a sewer below. And then you hear an electric shock noise. What could that be?
Oh, boy.
You can also go into the basement and finally use those upgrade parts for Chris's handgun, which make it not noticeably better for most players.
Isn't it like it has a higher chance of headshot?
Well, it normally doesn't have any chance. I think it gives it a chance to randomly do as much damage as the Magnum.
Ah, that's it.
Which sounds great, but when I mean random, I mean probably not.
And that it happened like twice when I was playing this a month ago.
Yeah. They also kind of lazy about the graphical change, because the icon in your inventory is the Glock at an angle, and if you go to examine the item, it's the same model, it just starts off at an angle.
Yeah, it's just tilted up.
Honestly, you're probably better off just using the custom handgun Claire had.
Yeah, but you may have left that on Claire.
Finally, you get the cutscene that a lot of people were probably waiting for back in the day on the Dreamcast. When you go through a cold storage room, I think this is where the Tyrant was kept. You're about to just leave through the room, when all of a sudden you hear, "Long time no see, Chris." And it's Wesker. And this is where he reveals everything he's been up to for people who played the original version.
Instead of earlier, where he says it's a Claire.
Yeah.
At the X version.
He, beats the crap out of Chris with super speed. Wesker says he's looking for Alexia and has found out that she's in the Antarctic with Claire. He's ready to kill Chris, and then a screen pops up with Alexia on it, and he just freaks out and throws Chris into one of the cold sleep chambers, which, cracks it open. And a Bandersnatch comes out, so you get to fight that as Chris.
The last one, thank goodness.
Thing to note, the name of the Bandersnatch's theme is Pulsating Right Arm.
It's also the most, ridiculously over-the-top music in the
It's really...
Yeah. Oh, also, we skipped over something else. The cutscene where Wesker's revealed sending out the hunters.
It also has Alexia.
Yeah, Chris sees a monitor, and it's broadcasting Alexia in the Antarctic base. She's cradling the head of Alfred, singing a song about a nice king marrying a mean queen. It's the song.
With lyrics.
For the clueless Chris count again, Chris suddenly is treated to a naked woman cradling a dead guy in a military outfit singing a song.
I think Alexia's put on a dress at this point. You see most of Alexia, but you don't see what Alfred is wearing, so Chris has no idea how Alfred is dressed.
He's just like a toy soldier.
Yeah, he has a bunch of medals that I don't think he earned.
They're like pop caps or whatever.
He ordered them from a catalog or some shit.
Well, one of the nice things about it being an older game where the medals are a texture on his jacket is you can just imagine they're just woven patterns on his jacket.
Yeah, it's like having one of those tuxedo shirts.
Only there are alternate costumes.
If only.
And it's on that scene where Wesker's like, oh, Alexia's awake, and he sees Chris on the monitor, which is why he unleashes the hunters. But yeah, so now Wesker's run off to try and get to the Antarctic because he was reminded that Alexia's awake, which he already knew. Now you finally go to the underwater airport, and there are zombies with explosives strapped to them, which I guess are the remains of Wesker's Special Forces team.
Mm-hmm.
And if you shoot them, you might need to hit them from a certain angle, but their explosives will go off and kill other zombies around them. If you're standing next to the zombie, it'll probably kill you.
Yeah. But also, they do have this neat effect where they're wearing night vision goggles, and it does the same thing as Wesker's eyes did in that cutscene that was added in X.
Yeah, they have little light trails. They're a nice touch. They shake things up with the zombies a bit.
Especially since they get, 5 introduction sequences. Oh no, zombies! Still.
Yeah, these zombies don't get any kind of introduction, which is weird because they're actually different.
Maybe they would introduce him to him?
First thing he sees is Gulpworm, so all bets are off, right? In all fairness, the cutscene where Gulpworm eats Rodrigo, it focuses on his shocked face for a good second. You need to get some items in the airport to get the key that'll take you to where the emblem is. Also, when you go in there, there's a collapsed tunnel within there. Well, it looks like it's been sort of blocked off. And I'm pretty sure that's the tunnel that Alfred, collapsed to bury all the workers in that built the private house. So I kind of like that bit of detail. And you go down towards the pool where the emblem fell, and you get a cutscene for a boss?
Hey, remember that thing we talked about for a couple seconds earlier? The Albinoid? And we laughed at it?
It's just a little shitty salamander, basically.
It is a boss that has 2 attacks. It electrifies the water that it is swimming in, and it will rush at you and try to just kind of bash you. Both of these only work when you are standing in the water, and the only reason to get into the water is to get the emblem. Neither of these attacks are even close to one-hit kills.
Yeah.
They do barely any damage. So what you can do is jump into the water, wade over like it's a fucking kiddie pool, grab the fucking emblem, and leave, and not have to deal with him at all.
Basically, the last rival fight in Pokemon is now fight my Magikarp with Thunder. Fucking, okay.
I mean, if you want to fight this thing, it's actually a huge pain in the ass, because if you want to shoot it from out of the water, you can't really hit it at the 45-degree angles your character aims at. You have to sort of fire when you're in between angles, which you can't really see where it is, so that's difficult. Or you can get in the pool and shoot at while it electrocutes you. Have fun.
There is no reason to deal with it.
Yeah, also this boss fight has kind of dramatic music, which is totally wasted on this.
Yeah, it only shows up here. It is pointless.
So yeah, you take the emblem and you leave, and you don't fight the Albinoid, because why? And then you melt the emblem and get the axe. Also, in the hallway, where that save room is in the axe door, you get a cutscene for the spiders, but you've already been introduced to them at this point, so that's not a big deal. You go into the Harrier hangar, and it plays a cutscene automatically. And luckily, Alfred has a backup Harrier in his private Harrier hangar.
Well, that's obviously the Harrier for Alexia.
They just go on Harrier flights together.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Plays the theme from Afterburner.
So then you get to fly automatically to the Antarctic. I guess there were coordinates in or something. I doubt Chris just got in a Harrier and was like, oh, the Antarctic. Let me just fly to the entire Antarctic.
Where is it? South.
There's probably coordinates in it, but out of the 3 characters in this game that fly planes, Chris's backstory is that he was in the Air Force, so he knows how to fucking fly a plane.
Even though he was improbably young when he was in the Air Force.
But Jill is even younger than him.
That's true.
Especially compared to Steve and Alfred, who I don't think either of them can fly an airplane.
I mean, that implies that Alfred can do something competently.
Well, he can't do anything anymore, because at this point, he's fucking dead.
Yeah, he's done.
So, you get to the Antarctic base.
In the last quarter of the game, we are almost done, but also there's going to be so much shit to talk about in this last quarter of the game, because the first quarter and the last quarter are the most packed.
Yep. So, Alexia's tentacles are just out now. Shoot them a lot with whatever you got. Fire grenades are the best. stuff is mostly rearranged in the areas that you saw flood in the cutscene.
Because now they're covered with ice. It's like Mr. Freeze showed up.
Yeah, so if you go back into the center room where the shipping facility was, which is now covered in ice, there's a spider under there. You see it under the ice, it's kind of there as like a threat. Also, there's a room with a fire extinguisher refill.
Hope you have that.
Yeah.
Hopefully you brought Chekhov's fire extinguisher, and now you can put out the fire.
And also set off the detonator and hide behind some missiles and get you fucking 60 rounds for the garbage gun that you don't use anymore.
These 60 handgun bullets are past the magnum. So you can get that. It cuts through rows of zombies and kills them in one hit. Does it kill hunters in one or two hits?
I don't know. I don't use it on hunters. I wait to use it on bosses.
You have enough to not just use it on bosses.
Really, there's only, like, 2 or 3 bosses, depending on how you fight them, left anyway.
Yeah. This also makes zombies' heads explode, but not actually. You need a key to operate a crane, because you see, well, you can tell it's Alexander under the ice, Nosferatu. His necklace has a gem on it you want.
You don't know you need it yet. Well, I mean, other than that it's a sparkly thing in a Resident Evil game, you don't know why you need it yet.
Yeah, so you need a key for that. Otherwise, there's not much to do in the old base. Oh, you can also use the axe to open up a drawer in the save room Claire used. I keep saying axe, just a reminder, it's tiny. It's a little drink umbrella.
Yeah, not the Astroth one.
But that will show up again.
It will.
Once you can cut through the other side doors that you can reach because of the ice, there's a bunch of power room puzzles in the way. But, you turn the power back on, whatever.
You glazed over a thing. You turn on the power or whatever. That is important, that you turn on the power, for a thing that I will be mad about later.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. In this next area, there's the mansion from Resident Evil 1.
It also has a part of another room from the mansion that was not located there, which is that tiger statue that would rotate and there'd be snakes that dropped on your head if you fucked it up. But it works differently in this game. For a puzzle a little bit later, you're going to need both the gems from that.
Yeah.
But with the power on, its head will rotate when you take one of the gems, making the other gem inaccessible. Because Chris can't, two-hand the son of a bitch. He can't just take both at once.
And if you take one out of one side, it'll turn and you can get an item. One of them has magnum rounds. The other has... Oh, right. So, remember how you used a crank earlier to shut out the poison gas? First things first, if you go there and get the crank, there's a cutscene. Another oh my gosh zombies cutscene where the zombies come out of the ice. And Chris looks concerned for some reason.
Oh, not zombies.
Last one of these in the game. I guess they thought it was cool that the zombies came out of the ice, but they could have just...
It could have been not a cutscene, just like a spooky, oh shit, zombies.
What, are they coming out of the ice? That would work.
You get a fucking valve. The same one that you used earlier. It was originally a square valve that you cut into an octagonal shape with a machine to fit that valve. But now, you need a square valve again. And you can't, recut it, because the machine's broken, and also that's not how objects work in the real world.
No.
If you cut more things off of them, then it'll work. So you need an adapter to make it a square again.
You turn the tiger statue one day, and there's a crank square adapter.
Of course there is.
As if this was all planned out ahead of time.
There couldn't even be an interstitial step where the adapter end only fits on one kind, so you have to make it a circle or something. No, you got it right. Honestly, despite all the ridiculous shit in this game, I find this the most ridiculous because it looks mundane, but actually has no basis in real-world logic. Everything else looks ridiculous, so it's fine. Also, if you go into the backside of the stairs of the mansion, there's Claire, strung up in a bunch of goo for some reason, and you need a knife to cut her out.
But this, though, is a point that will change something if you do this in a different order. You can actually get the key for the crane to get Nosferatu out of the ice before now. And if you do that, there is a bonus cutscene that you will not get later that I have not seen, so Sid will describe it.
Right, Alan, it's great. Because if you normally pull Nosferatu out of the ice after you do this scene, then Chris just sees him come out of the ice and is shocked at how poorly he was treated or something. But if you do it before you free Claire, then Alexia is there. And she does a ridiculous laugh and then says, "Send the spider to the fly. How do you wish to die?" Ooh.
Oh, did we cover the ridiculous dolphin laugh?
No, they both laugh in a weird way. But yeah, Alexia has the same terrible sense of humor as her brother when he said he could join you in your descent to death.
Yep.
It makes it hard to buy that she's a genius. I guess she's book smart. And so she pieces out because the giant spider that's under the ice will leap out and smash the operator's booth. Now here's another boss fight, ? Because again, all you need is Alexander's brooch, and then you can leave. No reason to fight this giant spider.
No reason to come through this room ever again, so...
Nope.
This thing it's just a more dangerous, bigger spider. And also, if you use a high-power weapon and shoot it from behind, you can blow up its butt, and then tons of tiny baby spiders come out, which stun you if they jump at you, so it's just kind of randomly you get stunned. But if you run over them, they get smashed. I don't know. Whatever. Don't fight this thing.
It's another fight that's actually easier to run from.
If you unlock like an infinite ammo weapon or something, then it's kind of fun to blow this thing to smithereens.
It's not like sticking and fighting Nemesis. It's really not fucking worth it.
It's a lot like the spider boss, Black Tiger in Resident Evil 1, where it's not really a thing.
There's also one other thing you can do before you rescue Claire. There's a little dice object you get. That's what you need the axe for in the save room.
Oh yeah. There was also handgun bullets in there, though.
Right. But there's a giant novelty dice with a symbol on it, and you can go into the room where Alexia was. Actually, also on the way to that room, there's a giant flying anthive.
Yeah, because remember the video that you've been shown twice now with the song, where they're feeding the dragonfly to a bunch of ants. And there are several notes throughout the game that talk about how Alexia wants to be an ant queen.
Yeah, she just loves ants. Also, the T. Veronica virus was derived from ants.
Yeah. If you go to one side of the hive room, there's a smaller room with a dead queen ant in it, which they combined it with the progenitor virus that the T virus was derived from and everything, and that's how they made T. Veronica. But the other side is the cold sleep room. There's symbols on the panel, and the dials has those symbols, and you want to use the one on the opposite side, which is an okay use of the item rotation. I mean, I guess that's usually what people do with those kinds of puzzles.
It's literally just a rotate the thing puzzle. It's not difficult, and it tells you basically what to do when you examine the thing that you need to input the code on.
So you put in the code, and then you have to put the die in. Just put it in here, it's not useful anymore. Then out of the cold sleep chamber, Alexia stuffed Alfred's body in there, so Chris sees what Alfred's wearing for the first time. Again, he has not really much idea who Alfred is.
Just a dead guy falls out of a tube.
Yep, and then you take his ring.
Yeah, Chris loots a corpse.
Right. Oh, and it was Alexander's earring that you took out of his brooch. Anyways, you rescue Claire, finally, and whether the next cutscene happens immediately or not is dependent on whether you got poisoned by Nosferatu as Claire.
If you didn't, it just goes right on in the next cutscene. If you did, you need to backtrack into the room that's on fire where the Magnum was and get you some serum that's just there.
And then you give that to Claire and she's fine. And then Alexia shows up and taunts them, and so Chris and Claire rush after her on the stairs. But then a tentacle busts out of the wall and smashes the stairs, and Chris falls and injures his leg. Claire also tells Chris when she wakes up finally that she was captured alongside someone named Steve. She's like, who's Steve? She says, a boy I was captured with on this island. Even though Steve's a teen, yeah, he's a boy.
The two things we know for sure that Chris knows about Steve in this game are that Claire says, he's a boy that I met on the island and is here with me, and then he hears his sissy scream when after the tentacle smashes the staircase. So, for all we know, Chris thinks that Steve is 8, because the last person that Claire escaped from a place with was Sherry Birkin.
Not a bad assumption.
So, now you're back to playing as Claire. You get into another save room, and you can equip Claire again. This is kind of a tough decision point to decide what guns Claire should have, because you don't know how long you're going to be Claire, and you don't want to take any options from Chris. There's actually a bookshelf you push aside, and there's a shotgun rack in this room with some grenades. I guess at this point you actually probably should take the grenade launcher, because Chris has plenty of weapons.
I mean, this is foreknowledge for this area, but you don't really need to fight anything.
There are some tentacles in your way, so you'll probably want to use flame rounds.
Well, you could just bring straight up just the handgun, because you're not going to use it.
That's true. Yeah, you can also bring the handgun. Well, there's an upcoming sort of boss that having a strong weapon helps with, if you don't want to use up too many healing items.
It is a boss that you have to run from.
But if you don't want to use first aid sprays, because those lower your rank.
Even then, I had plenty of healing items at this point in the game, but that was just me. Maybe I was playing better than usual.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of cocky going back into it, so I did under-prepare. Because, yeah, when I played this game when I was younger, I played it a shitload. I knew this game back and forth.
Take whatever you know that you're not going to use as Chris.
So you have to kill some tentacles in some hallway, and then you enter another dungeon, which has a giant slab on a chain that slams the ground, and a cannon. Like a medieval cannon.
Time for the goofiest puzzle in Code Veronica.
You turn the wheel on the cannon to tilt it down, and a glass ball with a key card comes out, and that activates the crusher. So you need to pick up the ball, place it under the crusher, and have it slam the ball.
You need to make sure you are not fucking killed when this thing falls down, which is harder than it sounds.
Especially if you're like me and my brother and you didn't know about the quick turn, because stepping backwards is not fast enough. So anyway, it slams the ball, and then you pick up the card, and once you step off the panel, you hear a click, and the device stops.
I feel like this is another thing that was used as inspiration for some of the goofy as fuck rooms in the Salazar Castle in the next game. Like the pendulum room, the 2 times where there's a fucking ceiling coming down on you.
Yeah, honestly, the Ashfords are just kind of the Salazars on a budget.
Basically.
You need that key card. It also has a document with it, which tells you about the self-destruct device and how that will activate the emergency override and unlock all the doors in the facility. And the code for the self-destruct sequence is the name of our great matriarch that founded the Ashford family. It's Veronica.
Code Veronica.
Yes, it's also on the box for the game. If you can't think of what it is, pretend you're fucking playing Metal Gear Solid 1 and look on the box.
You use the keycard to go into the room. Steve's there. He's got the giant axe over him that Claire can't move. And Steve says that that crazy woman said that she was going to do the same experiment to him that she did on her father. And then Steve transforms.
He looks like a villain that the Incredible Hulk would fight, but not beat.
Also, though, Tyrant Steve still has Steve's hair.
Yep.
His fringe. His emo fringe redhead.
Despite turning into, again, a Hulk villain, he still has his terrible, crappy haircut, and still his face still looks the same except green.
Oh, his mouth is, in a default kind of open state that looks like he's about to say something. Owen Wilson makes that face a lot, so that's not scary.
It's in the Code Veronica X notes right here that Steve's hairstyle changed between the original and X.
Yeah, they made it
fringier.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just says noticeable fringe.
They needed a whole year to implement that fringe. So, anyways, this is a boss fight where you can't kill the boss.
If you try, he will fucking kill you.
You just get fucking bodied.
Steve picks up the giant axe and will slash at you, and
basically gets a free hit.
And what's probably the showiest aspect of this boss fight is as you run away, this knight armor lining the sides, and he smashes through all of it as he chases after you.
His attacks are really, really dangerous. They straight up put you into danger.
Yeah.
You can't survive more than one hit.
Yeah.
You can't even try to fight him as a joke.
You actually need to bring at least one, probably 2 full healing items with you to this.
I guess that's the other reason why you might bring the grenade launcher, because it will stun him, giving you a chance to run. So if you are out of healing items, hopefully you have some kind of high-power weapon you can stun him with.
If you are out of healing items, you are fucked anyway, because the last boss is really hard. So
you run away, and so Steve's bashing on the bars, and then he finally breaks through and runs up to Claire, and then a giant Alexia tentacle pops out of the wall and holds Claire in place. So he winds up, and he swings, but then he stops just short of Claire's neck, and you hear him in his awful Tyrant Steve voice say, "Whirl."
yeah, it sounds terrible.
Sure does.
And then he slices through the Alexia tentacle, and the remaining half just slams into his chest with its acidic blood. I don't know why this is so damaging to him, considering he can survive everything else you throw at him. But yeah, it slams into his chest and throws him against the wall, and he de-transforms, mostly.
He goes all Bruce Banner again,
Yeah.
and is naked.
Those skin's kind of like not back to normal. It's sort of still a gross green color.
It's like a pale green.
Yeah.
So he finally looks like the way he really is. Disgusting.
Pretty goddamn disgusting.
And this is when Steve reveals that he loves Claire.
Oh, what?
And then Claire does not respond and lets him die. And then just kind of cries,
Yeah.
I guess. And there's, like, the most ridiculously sappy
the
music that sounds like something that would be in a sad cutscene in a Persona game.
Then it cuts back to Chris. And it looks like Alexia's back, but she's not focused on Chris. She's being talked at by Wesker.
This is another one of these scenes that was changed in X.
Pretty considerably.
In the original version, it was much shorter, and I've only played X, so you explain what happens in the original, Sid.
Okay. Wesker's talking to Alexia and says, "The last remaining copy of the T. Veronica virus is in your body. I want it."
Yeah.
And then she just sort of taunts him. Then you get a cutscene of her walking down the steps slowly, and her body catches fire and her dress burns off, but it's okay, because she mutates in probably what is the least disgusting transformation in any Resident Evil.
She turns into a Parasite Eve character.
She just looks kind of like a sexy Medusa type thing, honestly. She doesn't really come out of it very poorly, but, you know, she doesn't have nipples now, so it's okay that she's totally naked.
A-okay.
Also, when she's transforming, her necklace snaps off and goes flying off to the side. And that's the last gem you need. She walks up to Wesker, who's in awe of this, slaps him in the face, and he goes flying against the wall into the door. Then he tries to attack Alexia again, and just gets slapped to the side.
Yep.
Alexia sees Chris and gets distracted, and that's when Wesker runs out the door. And so she flicks her blood against the door, and like it creates a flame barrier. That's one of her powers, is she can flick her blood and it creates fire.
In X, though, the scene is longer. It still does the part all the way up through when her clothes burn off. But Wesker does not get his shit wrecked in this version. He instead actually does like some Matrix fighting where he like runs along like a wall and jumps off and does some kind of Street Fighter move on Alexia's face. He does get lit on fire at one point, but he, like, puts it out in a kind of goofy but also kind of cool way. But he still does not want to fight her, so he says, "Chris, you were always my best man, so why don't you take her on?" And then he just leaves.
Just fucks off.
Now you get a boss fight. When I said the music and theme music is kind of operatic, like, this is that completely.
This is the peak.
The whole point of this boss fight is just avoiding the blood she flicks, which creates, like, fire that you can't go past, so you don't want to get zoned out of not being able to run away from her, because if she catches up to you, she will grab Chris by the head, lift him off the ground with one hand, and light his whole body on fire and you die.
It is a one-hit kill in the most cinematic way possible.
It looks pretty cool, but then you're dead.
Don't worry, if you don't see it in this part, there's a part where you're almost certainly going to see it later.
Mm-hmm.
You pick up the brooch and you use the gems from all 3 Ashford family members on a painting in the middle of the stairs to open up a secret door, and they'll take you to the hallway that Claire ran through and fought the tentacles in. As soon as you exit this room from any of the doors, though, you get a cutscene of Alexia getting back up. She's not dead.
And it plays music that lasts for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Also, the Alexia boss fight's a good one to save the Magnum for, because it takes exactly 6 shots to put her down.
It is the most useful the Magnum is in this game.
So you go back into the dungeon, and there's a cutscene of Chris. He hears Claire crying on the other side of the door. He can't bash it open.
He's not Resident Evil 5 Chris yet. He hasn't taken every drug.
Yeah, his arms aren't tank busters yet.
Claire slips him the file and the key card and says, you use the emergency override if you set off the self-destruct. So, there's a key that's just a dragonfly, and you need to get 4 dragonfly wings that are hidden around, and you need to put them back on the dragonfly, and then use that complete key to open the room with the self-destruct device in it.
In all likelihood, you will have gotten 3 of them before you even fought Alexia.
Also, 2 of them are actually right next to each other. I'm just going to tell people this because it's really kind of annoying. In front of the replica mansion, there's a little carousel and merry-go-round or toy horse, I can't remember what it was specifically, that has a wing by it, but there's also a pool of water next to it, and the other wing is right there in that pool of water, so go get that.
The last wing is hidden behind a puzzle that looks like, suspiciously, rooms that you've been in this game before. Maybe because they reused them. It looks like the room from the castle with the music box in it, so guess what? You have to hear the music box twice more.
Oh, yeah.
Because they hadn't done it enough. But anyway, for that puzzle, you need both of the tiger eyes.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think you would need to do this, because it's not how you solve any other puzzle in a Resident Evil game. But you need to turn the power back off.
You can use a roundabout route through the mansion to avoid going through the electric door, so you don't need to have it powered back on.
Yes, but you need a key to open that, and that key is hidden in a desk that does not have any indication that you can interact with it. You have to just kind of click wildly and think, hey, there's a desk, maybe there's something in it.
It's weird, though, because remember the eagle emblem at the very beginning of the game I talked about that you need to replicate using that experimental metal? Well, you wouldn't think to check the desk drawer it's in, but you might want to check the computer. So by wanting to check the computer, you open the desk drawer and get the emblem. So in kind of a trick, they let you find something that you wouldn't think to look for. In this section, there's not really anything like that.
That's also a situation where there's not many places you can go at that point in the game, so it's like eventually you would run across it. But this facility is entirely open to you at this point. It could be potentially anywhere.
Next to the self-destruct room, you can see it's right above the hive that you saw earlier. But there's also a gun in the wall. It says it's an experimental linear launcher, and it requires 2 people to turn the 2 keys on the side of it at once, and then it'll need to charge up and you can use it.
Luckily, this game has 2 protagonists, because the person accompanying the first protagonist is dead as shit.
Yeah, you open up the self-destruct room. There's some zombies in here for some reason.
Mostly as a way to annoy people who assume that they would only need to bring their most powerful weapons with them. Because these zombies will just get in the way if you don't want to use your magnum bullets or exploding crossbow bolts.
You go into the panel and you enter the code. It sets off the self-destruct sequence. And as soon as you get out, Claire runs up to Chris and they're all reunited, ready to leave, when a giant tentacle deposits Alexia onto the platform. And even though Chris took her down with magnum rounds or something before, his first thought with Claire is that they need to activate the linear launcher.
And he knows exactly how to use it for no reason. Turn it simultaneously on 3, let's go! He says it like a football coach.
Yeah. Chris's voice acting is fine. really. He doesn't have many emotional stakes. Sometimes his delivery's weird. Like when he first sees Wesker, he's like, "What are you doing here?" So they turn the key, and then Claire runs to leave, but Alexia's fully awake.
Chris is like, "I'll take care of myself. You get to the Harrier," which she has no idea of knowing where that is, but she goes anyway.
To the emergency elevators, I think he just tells her to take that.
Oh yeah, the emergency elevator.
Alexia moves to attack Claire.
And you have about 2 seconds
to
fire a gun, any gun, at Alexia. If you don't, Alexia will do that move she did earlier, if you fucked up during the boss battle against her, and one-hit kill Claire, and you have to do it again.
This is going to screw you over because you think you have to do something special, or it's pointlessly not a threat. And Alexia transforms, and this is the final boss battle.
She turns into what looks like a giant anthill with a fucking dragonfly coming out the top of it.
Get it?
And this boss fight is either really annoying or you end it quickly.
It depends on how many arrows you have.
This is the reason the gunpowder arrows are definitively better than the Magnum. So Magnum pierces through enemies and stuff, but the arrows do more damage faster. This is what this boss can do. She can unleash tentacles from her base that slam the ground and do pretty big damage. She can unleash these little mites.
Yeah, these awful little minions that will stun you. They will basically stun lock you. They don't do a ton of damage, but they will let her hit you and keep you from firing.
Yeah.
Also, her slam attacks do poison, which is a thing that most people don't see because they finish this fight pretty quick. But yes, if you get fucked over, you can get poisoned.
I think the best weapon for taking out the minion things is a shotgun, but if you're fast enough, you don't have to worry about them. So yeah, use the gunpowder arrows and kill her, and then you get another cutscene. The self-destruct sequence starts burning up the ant hive, and the rest of the ants rush up and eat the base off of her.
And she detaches from the hive and is now only like a dragonfly thing. And the linear launcher goes, ding, alright, your toast is ready. Fucking grab that thing and shoot it. And this is the worst section of the whole video game. You luckily have infinite ammo, but you need to fire at Alexia with a gun whose shots have travel time, where she will intentionally wait for you to fire and then move out of the way.
Yeah, she's fast.
Yeah, she's flying, she's fast, so she's hard to hit with your other weapons.
Also, you need to aim with the linear launcher like you aimed the sniper rifle, which was also a big pile of shit.
If you didn't use the sniper rifle, then you have no practice on how to handle these first-person scoped weapons, too, so sorry.
So this is a thing that can either take you about 5 seconds, or all the rest of the time before the fucking self-destruct goes off and kills you.
Also, she spits acid on you in this form, which makes a weird, like, echoey noise. It sounds like someone going like, "Slop, slop, slop."
Luckily, you only need to hit once.
And then you get a cutscene of her exploding. The explosion knocks Chris to his feet, and he just drops the linear launcher and doesn't think this infinite ammo laser bazooka is worth trying to pick up again.
Also, her exploding is really funny looking. It is the worst animated thing.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen the opening cutscene of Blue Stinger, where the guy's face, like, expands and stretches out into infinity, it is that. It is that in a Resident Evil game.
Anytime you've seen an old movie where someone inflates and explodes.
Yep.
In the original Dreamcast version, Chris gets knocked over, and then rushes down the stairs, gets on the emergency elevator, takes it up, the flames chasing right behind the elevator, and he ends up in the hangar with Claire. There's a step in between that, though, added in Code Veronica X, and this is probably the biggest, most important addition.
Yes, the biggest addition, the addition that will change the Resident Evil series forever, in my opinion. Though, in my opinion, I also consider it a positive change. You may not. Which is that Wesker is a superhero, basically.
Yeah. Chris runs down the stairs, and Claire didn't get on the elevator, because Wesker is holding her hostage. And he busts out into a side room. Chris chases after, and, like, shoulder checks a zombie that's blocking his path. Into the submarine dock, where Wesker's submarine is that he took to get from the island to the Antarctic.
How did he get here so quickly in a submarine?
He seems to show up once you encounter Alexia near the end, so he probably was entranced the whole time. And Wesker and Chris have a showdown. He convinces Wesker to release Claire because the fight's between them. Because he promises to stick around and finish off Wesker 4 stars.
It's his duty as a STARS member. Because apparently STARS were samurai.
Also, if you're not familiar, STARS was the team in the first game.
Special Tactics and Rescue Service.
That investigated the mansion where the fires broke out, and most of them got killed. Though a lot of them also survived.
Because Wesker was a traitor.
So Chris, as a STARS member, takes on Wesker, who's super strong, and Chris tries to fist fight him. It doesn't work. He tries to hit him with the pipe. Wesker just blocks it with his arm, and then he gloats about how he's not human anymore.
Oh,
but
man.
look at all the power I wield.
So Chris is about to get finished off by Wesker, but he sees that there's a big container of I-beams above him. So he jumps and flips the switch. The I-beams slam down onto Wesker, and then Wesker just pushes them out of the way and gets back up. And he's ready to finish off Chris, but then an explosion creates a wall of flame between them and messes up Wesker's face, which I guess just heals later, because he's fine next time we see him.
Hair's untouched, though.
He's got, like, super healing.
Because Wesker's hair is impenetrable.
So he just guarantees next time we'll finish this, which means, like, a lot more in between next times before the time you actually finish it. And yeah, I guess Chris realizes he needs to get way more jacked if he wants to punch Wesker.
So he needs to train against every boulder in the world.
You know, if he just kept the linear launcher, he could have blown Wesker up. Anyways, from here on, it's the same. Chris gets to the elevator, and Claire's wondering where Chris is as the entire base is pre-exploding before the self-destruct sequence, as you do. And just as the elevator opens, a blast comes through the elevator shaft and launches Chris through the air onto the nose of the Harrier, which would shatter every rib in his body, but he's fine, you know, especially after getting his ass kicked by Wesker. Then he just says to Claire, "Hey, I always keep my promises," and they take off. Claire's just like, "Promise you won't leave me." Well, there's one more thing we need to do.
We need to destroy Umbrella once and for all, and then they fucking fly off into the sunset, or sunrise, I guess.
We're gonna take down Umbrella. Wait here, Claire.
And that, nothing comes of that.
Yeah, Chris and Jill go to Siberia or whatever and shoot some stuff up in Umbrella Chronicles. And Claire doesn't do jack shit.
Resident Evil Revelations happens. Eventually 5 rolls around. And Umbrella is taken down by economic reasons. Yep. Thanks, Resident Evil 4 intro, for being the best thing. God, I fucking love how that's the way that Umbrella is taken down. That's the best. I love Resident Evil 4. It's so good.
So should we put stock in the guys who nuked a city? Nah.
Well, the government freezes their stock. So like, hey, you are involved in an international incident involving biological weapons, which are illegal.
Just a little bit.
So the base explodes, and that's the end of Resident Evil Code Veronica. And you get the credits roll, which in the original Dreamcast version has a super cheesy, like, dating sim or 80s romance ballad, like, instrumental behind it. It's really weird.
The, like, I Am the Wind-alike?
Yeah.
The X version has, like, a operatic thing that actually is probably the first fitting music for a Resident Evil game. Because all of them have been cheesy rock since the beginning.
It's like a fast-paced remix of the Code Veronica theme. It's got, like, bongos and shit. It's great.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Just shows stills from the game. Like, you know, oh, memories, meeting Steve dying, my favorite.
Ah, good times.
Oh, we forgot to mention the greatest threat
Right.
Wesker ever makes in the whole series, which is he threatens to possibly bring Steve back to life.
Yeah, he ends up getting his sample of the virus from Steve's corpse, and says one day he might even come back to life just as I did.
Nope.
So that's the main game. You unlock one thing for beating the game. Battle mode, which is just like a mini game.
Not as good as the Mercenaries mode from 3, the other game released just before this one.
So, yeah, battle mode, you just go through set rooms with specific enemies in each room, And your characters start out with preset weapons, and yeah, you just run through and try to kill them all as fast as possible, not use too many healing items, and each character fights a different last boss. It's alright, I mean...
Yeah, it's a funny.
Like, survival horror game combat is obviously not the greatest, but you go to it for sort of the release of being able to use these weapons.
Yeah. It's no mercenaries, it's no raid mode, but it's fun. It's worth trying out.
You get to let loose. Claire gets infinite gunpowder arrows. Chris has infinite magnum rounds. Steve has infinite submachine gun ammo. He also gets to use his gold Lugers, which are kind of like the M100P, the dual handguns from a while ago that we mentioned. They shoot slower, but you can do headshots on zombies with them. And also Wesker, who has just a knife, but he does more damage with it.
Yeah.
He's like Nikolai from Mercenaries in 3.
Well, Nikolai also had a handgun.
What I mean is he is the badass character who is actually really terrible.
Yeah, he doesn't run faster or anything. Just makes sense in Resident Evil 5 when you do setups for his hand-to-hand moves, which kill things instantly.
This is a big, big difference between 4 and 5, where Wesker in the Mercenaries is the biggest badass ever, who has like a fucking magnum and can punch guys to death.
Yeah, and do his sick axe kicks.
So, there's one side item, though, that actually has some story significance. Remember the rat we mentioned earlier? Well, there's a side door you can go into, and it takes you to the sort of casino gambling area that was in the palace. And there's the slot machine, which you can operate, and it will have a random item in it. I think sometimes it's a healing item. In some cases it's a weapon, so hopefully as Wesker you get the Magnum, because his last boss is the first form of Alexia, who you don't probably want to fight with a knife.
Considering she has the one-hit-kill close-range move.
But you can also get D.I.J.'s Diary, which doesn't seem to make much sense at first, until you read the part where D.I.J. is stuck in a locker and is freed by Claire, and then you realize this thing's the fucking rat. On the plane fight with the tyrant, the rat prepared the catapult.
The rat's like Ada from Resident Evil 4. He just does all the things for you.
The rat ultimately ends up stealing away on Wesker's sub. So, I mean, you get the detail that he was using a sub. You played the original version. Now you know what that's all about.
It is very goofy, but not as goofy as Tofu,
No tofu.
from Resident Evil 2.
Is there a shortening for tofu like hunk?
I don't think so. I think he's just Tofu, because he is a sentient block of tofu with a knife.
Yeah. One of the reasons I want to discuss Code Veronica specifically for this episode is it kind of got overshadowed because of the place it's at in the Resident Evil canon. Since it's not a numbered title, some people thought it was skippable. Since it debuted on the Dreamcast, which didn't have as much of an install base as the PlayStation, people skipped over it. Even though when Code Veronica came out, it was considered top of its game, Resident Evil 4 changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
What kicked off Resident Evil 4 being more action-driven was the Resident Evil remake on GameCube not selling very well. But if you go back to that title, like obviously it has a lot of weight because it got re-released recently as an HD remaster, and it sold really well, one of Capcom's best-selling digital titles to date. So that occupies that place in history for classic survival horror, whereas Resident Evil 4 is the new turn that the series took.
The action survival horror.
Yeah. Code Veronica kind of faded into obscurity. Most people only know about Steve, which I just thought was so sad that I didn't want people to just think that about it.
It's also the last time Chris isn't a buff man.
Also, I guess, yeah, it marks the end of the old style of Resident Evil. It's really in between, because Resident Evil 1 and 2, 3 wasn't as bad, but they had voice actors who, like, their characters gesticulated wildly. Line deliveries were very strange and robotic. It was distracting. Whereas this one, Steve's exceptionally bad. Everyone else is weird, but they sound human. And there's no massive delays between when they talk in cutscenes or anything.
They sound like characters that you would hear in, like, a really campy, dubbed-over foreign horror movie.
Yeah, it's definitely a transition. And I mean, the influences for Resident Evil 4 obviously set up where the series was going to go. But I think it's really indicative of its place in history. This game, when it came out, got a 10 out of 10 rating from official Dreamcast magazine, Which sounds like, oh, okay, it's the debut on the Dreamcast, of course. But that magazine was famously pretty harsh. The first online racing game to come out on that console. Big deal for Sega, right? 6 or a 5 out of 10 or something? Because it's just not very good. They got a lot of flack from Sega for that. Speed Demons Online or whatever.
There are a fair number of Dreamcast games that are famously not very good, as it turns out.
Yeah, Dreamcast Magazine didn't play lightly with that, but they gave it a 10 out of 10, because this was a 10 out of 10 game when it came out. The games like Grand Theft Auto 4, I guess, get 10 out of 10s, and that's seen as historically kind of out of date. But it's not viewed now as Resident Evil Code Veronica is. Not poorly, just ignored completely. People don't seem to feel strongly about it if they have many feelings on it. I mean, what do you guys think of Code Veronica now?
Well, I don't know. It was the first Resident Evil game I played, which is weird because it's also probably the hardest Resident Evil game, at least in terms of the old ones. But I also like it quite a bit. If I had to sort of rank the Resident Evil games, I would put 4 first, but that's because I really like it.
Yeah.
And then 2, because it has a lot of nostalgia for me, even though it doesn't have a lot of the features that 3 made. Mm-hmm. But then it'd be Code Veronica. I love how goofy this game is. It's so just over the top all the time, and I love it.
Yeah. How about you, Zen?
Well, it wasn't the first Resident Evil for me, as I said. My first one was 3. I really liked it when I played it the first time, but I didn't like it as much as 3, and I do still stand by that, but that's mostly nostalgia. If I had to rank it myself, I'd probably put it as 6th. 4 would be first, 3, again, nostalgia, then probably 2, Remake, Revelations,
Resident Evil Gaiden.
Code Veronica would probably come after that. I like it a lot, but it's got a lot of, like, fucking really good competition keeping it from being in the top 5 for me.
Yeah, those old games are pretty close.
Resident Evil 2 has the advantage of having the 2 characters who you can decide what order you play the game in, so it has that replay. Plus, I mean, I mentioned it has like a super shotgun and super magnum. It's got a lot of toys.
And when you can get it with analog controls, like on the Nintendo 64, it's a lot more fun.
Resident Evil 3 was developed concurrently with this game, which explains why it has some features that I think are easier to go back to. Because in Resident Evil 1, 2, and Code Veronica, to like walk on stairs, you have to press a button, and your character will walk up the entire set of stairs. Same thing with ladders or everything. And in 3, you just run on the stairs. Just walk up and down the stairs normally. 3 has a lot of replay value, a lot of stuff to unlock. It has like alternate outfits and special weapons and stuff. It feels the most modern, I think.
The thing that kept me coming back to it was like, I wanted to see if I could fucking fight Nemesis.
Yeah. Code Veronica doesn't have a real like challenge to experiment with. When I played it on the Dreamcast, I had a Game Shark. So I hacked items into Steve's inventory to see what the rest of the game was like with him, because that's really the most experimentation you could get out of it. And I found out a few things, actually. If Steve gets attacked by bats, he has no animation for it, so he just freezes in place, and you have to reset. Steve fires the bowgun really slowly, like slower than the handgun. And also, Steve can't turn off the poison gas in the Antarctic base on Disc 2.
Yeah, that's the point where you can't progress anymore.
That's the game telling you to stop playing as Steve, even if you're cheating. So yeah, if you want to play Resident Evil Code Veronica, you have a few options.
Mm-hmm.
It was released on PlayStation Network and Xbox Live Arcade as an HD version. It doesn't really look any better as far as I can tell. Like, it looks normal on an HD screen, but it doesn't look better than the other kinds on their screens.
It's basically just a port so that you can play it on something that isn't a PS2 or a Dreamcast.
Yeah, it saves your hard drive. It has leaderboards for ranking. It's perfectly competent. I got it on sale. I think $20 is a bit steep. I checked quickly on Amazon before recording, and you can get it for about $4 on PS2. But the GameCube version...
Good fucking luck. GameCube version is apparently the 3rd rarest GameCube game that exists.
Yeah, if you want a complete copy, you're gonna be out a huge chunk of change. I mean, at that point, yes, buy the PlayStation Network version. Actually, though, one of the differences on the GameCube version is the track cutscene at the beginning, the one I said got changed in the X version to be shots from the intro. They made yet another one for the GameCube version that has a lot of shots of people standing around.
Yeah, I don't really know why.
Also, the title screen call, when they say Resident Evil, they got the guy that ended up doing Resident Evil 4, 5, 6, who sounds kind of like the Crypt Keeper. Resident Evil Code Veronica is not available in the Resident Evil 6 Anthology Edition, which is kind of annoying, because it's got more plot relevance to the rest of the series than 3 does. You also can't get this game on PC. There's no digital version of it for that. Or physical, actually. Never came out on PC at all. Kind of exceptional. The original ones are PlayStation classics, so you could get those for PS3, you could play them on a PSP or a Vita. This, yeah, you're stuck to console. Unless you used emulation, which, as far as I checked, all versions of this emulate pretty decently. There's also the original Dreamcast version, which you can get for $12.
It does require you to own a Dreamcast.
Yeah, it does.
Yes, it does. But again, we're talking about people who want to buy a copy of Code Veronica to play now.
Again, if one of your options is you can just download it from the PlayStation Network, you could just do that.
Yeah, well, I only mentioned these other ones because it's more expensive than all options besides the GameCube version.
But it's also the easiest option.
That's true.
It is the most expensive, but it is the easiest.
So it depends what you're willing to spend or if you want accessibility.
If you have a working PS2, I don't really see any reason to get the PSN version.
Yes, if you have a working PS2, just get a copy. It was the greatest hits.
Yeah.
So there's like 1 million copies of it. It's cheap.
Otherwise, other media for Code Veronica, S.D. Perry wrote more novelizations. She also wrote the other Resident Evil ones. They're infamously pretty bad.
Yeah, I would definitely say play the game instead.
There was a sequel to the light gun game Resident Evil Gun Survivor called Resident Evil Survivor 2 Code Veronica X, which is really bad. It's worse than the original game, which was a rather maligned PlayStation 1 light gun game with light gun support taken out, so you played it with a controller.
If you need a Code Veronica experience with a light gun, just play Darkside Chronicles.
That also comes with a light gun version of Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there you go. Also of a made-up bullshit scenario where Leon and Krauser go on a secret mission.
In South
Well,
America.
they're all made up bullshit scenarios.
I know, but I'm just saying.
But yeah, if you want a sort of condensed experience of Code Veronica, then play Resident Evil Darkside Chronicles, which was released on the Wii and re-released on the PS3. Darkside Chronicles has some problems where, like, they try to do the shaky camera thing, which is bad for a light gun shooter.
Oh god, it makes me nauseous, but I think it is a little better than Umbrella Chronicles.
Yeah, I mean, mostly the opinions seem to level out based on improvements they made in one game versus another. And if it's too tough to play, you can just watch it. The cutscenes and such have higher production value. It's a little nicer of an interpretation in that case. Also, Steve has a different voice actor.
And the music's all, like, symphonic and shit. It's pretty good.
Yeah, there's that. And if you want to play other survival horror games like it, like I said, Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 are available on PlayStation Network as PS1 classics.
Though Resident Evil 1 is the director's cut, so you get to hear Fart Mansion terrible basement theme.
Yeah. Then again, I would say there's really no point to play one, just play Remake.
And Remake is out on fucking everything, basically, now.
And it's really good.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that about wraps up the show. So, again, thank you, Goggalor and ZenScissors, for joining me.
Yeah, it was fun.
I like talking about Resident Evil, fine by me.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. Keep thinking.